Good morning everyone. I am Vibhu Kumar and today I am here to present before you my World Earth Day project. So let's begin. For the project I chose the topic carbon footprint. What are carbon footprints? A carbon footprint is the total greenhouse gas GHG emissions caused by an individual, event, organization, service, place or product expressed as carbon dioxide equivalent. Greenhouse gases, including the carbon-containing gases carbon dioxide and methane, can be emitted through the burning of fossil fuels, land clearance, and the production and consumption of food, manufactured goods, materials, wood, roads, buildings, transportation, and other services. Origin of the concept. The concept and name of the carbon footprint derive from the ecological footprint concept, which was developed by William E. Rees and Matthias Wackernickel in 1990s. While carbon footprints are usually reported in terms of emissions per year, ecological footprints are usually reported in comparison to what the planet can renew. This assesses the number of Earths that would be required if everyone on the planet consumed resources at the same level as the person calculating their ecological footprint. The carbon footprint is one part of the ecological footprint. Carbon footprints are more focused than ecological footprints since they measure merely emissions of gases that cause climate change into the atmosphere. Measuring carbon footprint. An individual's, nation's, or organization's carbon footprint can be measured by undertaking a GHG emission assessment, a life cycle assessment, or other calculative activities denoted as carbon accounting. Once the size of a carbon footprint is known, a strategy can be devised to reduce it. For example, by technological developments, energy efficiency improvements, better process and product management, carbon capture, consumption strategies, carbon offsetting, and others. This diagram shows all the GHGs present in our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide occupies the most of all the GHGs, which is about 84%, methane is 9%, nitrous oxide is 5%, and fluorinated gases is 2%. Carbon footprints of energy consumption. Three studies concluded that hydroelectricity, wind, and nuclear power produce the least CO2 per kilowatt hour of any other electricity sources. Energy consumption is by far the biggest source of human caused greenhouse gas emissions, responsible for a whopping 73% worldwide. The energy sector includes transportation, electricity and heat, buildings, manufacturing and construction, fugitive emissions, and other fuel combustion. Causes. Industries. According to a study, industrial process contributed about 78% of the total greenhouse gas emissions increase from 1970 to 2012. Mining. Mining has significantly played its role in the rise of carbon footprints. For example, gold mines emitted on average 0.8 tons of CO2 equivalent for every ounce of gold that was produced in 2019. Fossil fuels and transport. Global carbon emissions from fossil fuels have significantly increased since 1900s, which was the era of industrial revolutions. Since 1970, CO2 emissions have increased by about 90% with emissions from fossil fuel combustion. Food production. The new findings show that more than a third, 34% of all man-made greenhouse gas emissions are generated by food systems. They also show that food generates an average of 2 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions per person annually. Carbon footprints of transport. A normal flight produces 113 grams of CO2 per kilometer per passenger. A road vehicle produces 175 grams of CO2 per kilometer per passenger. A rail produces 90 grams of CO2 per kilometer per passenger. Carbon dioxide emissions from food production: 7.19 for high meat eaters, 5.63 for medium meat eaters, 4.67 for low meat eaters, 3.91 for fish eaters, 3.81 for vegetarians, 2.89 for vegans. Each value is per kg CO2 per person per day. Rise in CO2 emissions. Since the Industrial Revolution, greenhouse gas emissions have increased immensely. As of 2017, the carbon dioxide CO2 levels are 142% of what they were pre-industrial revolution. Methane is up 253% and nitrous oxide is 121% of pre-industrial levels. This chart shows the world fossil carbon dioxide emissions from 1970 to 2018. Here we can see that countries like China have contributed towards the carbon emissions immensely. Reducing carbon footprints. Reducing personal carbon footprints. Having a planned family. Having one less child could reduce CO2 by 5 tons. Food. Stop wasting food and follow vegan diet. Transport. Living car free and doing carpool, walking, biking and public transport. Reduce, reuse and recycle. Reducing industrial carbon footprint. Government should keep a check on waste management. Deforestation of lands on a large scale. Industries should follow government norms on pollution generation and using minerals and fuels in planned and limited way. Reducing greenhouse gases. Using renewable sources, capturing CO2 from power plants, capturing methane emissions from coal mines and landfills, improving technology for nylon production and gathering of fossil fuels would greatly reduce nitrous oxide emissions. Industries can invest in more advanced technology that will produce these gases, using CFL light bulbs and reducing the use of ACs. Brief explanation. This video briefly explains the carbon footprint in just 2 minutes.
This is you. You've probably been hearing a lot about climate change and how you should reduce your carbon footprint. But what is that exactly? Just like an actual footprint, it's a mark you leave upon the environment. No, not with your shoes, but with every action that releases carbons. Those are the harmful gases, such as CO2, which are pumped out by burning fossil fuels like oil or gas. The more fuel you use, the bigger your footprint will be. You may think that by driving your car, the only carbons you release come from the engine, but no. Consider the carbons that are emitted just to get fuel into the tank. From the energy needed to extract the oil from underground, the pollution caused by transportation and refinement, to the final delivery to your local petrol station. Not to mention the CO2 released by manufacturing your car in the first place. More than you thought, huh? So unless you live in a cave, you and everything you own has its own carbon footprint. Read a book? Printing and distributing. It uses energy. Brush your teeth, and your utensils will have a history in a factory. Even something as basic as an apple could have traveled hundreds or even thousands of polluted miles to end up in your local supermarket. You see, it's pretty much impossible to leave no carbon footprint behind, but that's no reason to stop trying. Think about your actions and choices, and you'll be able to reduce your personal mark after all. That's how you really put the boot into climate change. This is you.
As we have reached towards the end of the presentation, I would suggest you to take your carbon footprint test today. One such test is carbon footprint calculator, which calculates the amount of carbon footprint produced by you. One very good site is carbonfootprint.com, which measures the carbon footprint of individuals, small business, large business, and products. Just you have to click individual and fill all your data about your house, flights, car, motorbike, bus and rail, secondary, and then you will get your results of how much carbon footprint you produced. Thank you.